Hi, this is your host Swapnil Bhartiya, and welcome to another episode of TFiR Newsroom. And today we have with us Taylor Smith, Senior Product Manager at Prisma Cloud. Taylor, it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, Swap. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, and today we are going to mostly talk about how Prisma Cloud is bringing infrastructure and application security together, which is nice because we had talked about infrastructure security a lot, but now the focus is shifting towards application security as well. You folks are also announcing a software composition analysis tool. So let's talk about here, what it is, how did it work, and why are you announcing it now?
Yeah, absolutely. So our software composition analysis tool will take a look at all of the different package dependencies you have, open source dependencies you have, and identify known vulnerabilities in them. It's using the same database, the same intelligence stream that we have used for years with our image scanning. But now we're shifting that left to include package manager files that are included as developers type. So we do this throughout the development lifecycle. So in their IDE, as they open up a pull request, as they commit that code to a repo or run through a CI/CD pipeline, we warn them about vulnerabilities or license compliance issues they might have in their code, so they know how to fix it as early as possible.
Excellent. Now, there are other players, like Sneak. They have, similar kind of tools. So talk a bit about, once again, what are the driver reason behind you also launching it? And also, once again, there's not much different, but how does it kind of differentiate with their tool, the solution?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a few things. One, this is part of a greater platform. And so you now have this protection from full life cycle. So very few players in the market can say, not only can we find the vulnerabilities in your package dependency files as you're adding package dependencies, we also protect against them and find those vulnerabilities even in runtime, and then protect against any attempted exploits. So we have both the build and runtime component. Then we also, if you look at the full stack portion of it, so we've made the connection between infrastructure and application code. So we are now in the early days of what this looks like, but it's identifying vulnerabilities that are included when you open up when you add application dependencies in your infrastructure as code. So when you add an image to your Kubernetes manifest, or you add an image to your Terraform, we find those vulnerabilities in there and scan them and identify those issues. So we're making the connection both at full lifecycle and at across the full stack.
Can you also talk about, with this tool, we have been talking a lot about software supply chain, software bill of material. Companies have a kind of Herculean task of figuring out, what code is running in their application. They pull container images. They have no idea what's in there, what are the hard links. So how far does this tool go to kind of mitigate some of the supply chain related problems there as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a few things. So as part of this launch, we've included software bill of materials, and we've taken it a step further than a lot of organizations, where a lot of offerings where we include the infrastructure resources in that software bill of materials, because that also contributes to the risk that people are worried about when they have that SBOM. So we'll find all of the different open source packages and the languages we recognize. We'll include them in a standardized format, CycloneDX or CSV, and we include material types like infrastructure as code in there as well. That's how we use the SBOM today. And then for supply chain attacks, we're not just looking at, do you have vulnerabilities? We're also looking at, what is the posture of your CI/CD pipeline? What is the posture of your version control system? So making sure you have good posture for your pipelines and your supply chain, not just, is it vulnerable?
Right. Prisma acquired Bridgecrew, which brought the infrastructure security. But if you look at security in the cloud native landscape, or even the traditional IT, it's funny to use the word traditional IT, right? Because there are still on-prem server, there are still mainframes out there running the economy. We have been talking a lot about it's no one else's problem. It should be a priority. But having the kind of both ends of the spectrum, infrastructure security as well as application security, how does, once again, it helps organizations, like look at Uber case. I mean, it could be a very unique specific case because security is can be so many things. Could be misconfiguration. It could actually be software bug. It could be wrong permission. It could be social engineering. You just don't know. So you need to have a very holistic approach. So talk about this announcement. How was again Prisma Cloud, Bridge help companies kind of improve their security posture, irrespective of which aspect of security we are looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole point of why we built out our CNAP offering. It's not meant to be a single point solution that just tells you, hey, you have vulnerabilities or you have infrastructure as code misconfigurations. It's making those connections between the two and then doing that full life cycle. So finding those vulnerabilities and misconfigurations at runtime, also protecting against known vulnerabilities in 0 days at runtime, and having it all in one tool really helps break down some of those silos. So you have now one tool that can be used as a unified security offering for both your developer teams and your security teams. They're speaking the same language, they're using the same tools, the same vulnerability backend, so they're not finding unique findings once at different points of the life cycle. And there's no cracks between. So this was one of the things we've talked about in the past. When you were on-prem, people had entire splash pages full of logos of all the different tools they were using. And that's one, untenable. It's very difficult to manage all of those different tools. It's a lot easier to manage one tool that can do all or most of this. And it's also a lot easier to basically avoid missing things when there are gaps between the different tools that you're using.
And this is a big pain point, especially when we look at Kubernetes, CNCF landscape, cloud native, the complexity that is there that comes with, of course, Kubernetes and cloud, and that also leads to a cost in both dollar amount and developer time. So having to simplify. So can you also talk about once again how these tools kind of, because so many things are moving into developers pipeline. We do keep changing their DevOps, DevSecOps, SRE, platform engineer, cloud engineers, no matter what name you do, the problem they're trying to solve essentially remain the same. So we also have to, instead of moving a lot of things into their pipeline, we should also think a lot about making things easier for them so they really don't have to, as you said, look at 50 different logos, 50 different dashboards, at least security, because security is, nothing can bring a company down than bad news, about security. So once again, talk about with this approach, how you are kind of reduce some of the pain points that are there for a DevOps team developers today.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are asking a lot of our developers and more now, before they were dev and then they were DevOps and now they're DevSecOps and soon it's going to be DevSecFinOps. There's so much we're asking for them. And so this was really where Bridge Crew, when it was founded and as a part of Prisma Cloud, it's continuing to really focus on the developer. Everything is developer first. So if we surface a vulnerability or we surface a misconfiguration, we make it as easy as possible to get it fixed. We try and lower the bar to remediation as low as possible. So we do that in two ways. One, we do it by bringing up these vulnerabilities and these misconfigurations throughout the development lifecycle. So surfacing them in the IDE, surfacing them again in the pull as they open up a pull request, just like a peer would. And then also it's in making sure that the findings we have are accurate and have a fix as much as possible. So if you have a vulnerability, we tell you what's the minimum bump fix you need to make in order to remove the vulnerability. If it's a misconfiguration, we provide the fix as often as we can, or our documentation tells you how to fix it. So you don't need to be jumping to look through a whole bunch of tools or Google searching just to find the fix. We make it as easy as possible for the developer as they're coding to fix it then and there.
KubeCon is almost here. So tell us a bit about, of course, there'll be a big presence there, but, what kind of things we should be looking forward to? What should we expect from your team at the event?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything we're presenting and everything we announce is very relevant for Kubernetes users. We already scan Kubernetes manifests for misconfigurations, making sure you don't have a pod with too much privilege, things like this. and we're extending that to now find the vulnerabilities in the containers that are being imported. So you can check this out. We have two different booths there. We have one dedicated to Prisma Cloud, so you can see the full platform, the full CNAPP offering, and then we have one dedicated for Chekhov, our open source tools. So you can come visit that one if you want to see what we have that's open source and things you can pick up and try on your own.
Taylor, thank you so much for taking time out today and talk not only about SCA tool, but also how the security is evolving. You talked about the roles are changing, but the problem remains same, and how Prisma Cloud is trying to bring a holistic approach towards security, just one window to manage all the things. So thanks for sharing those insights, and as usual, I would love to have you back on the show. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Swap. It was a great conversation.